Something that many people have been suspecting for some time has been confirmed in that Rachel Zegler was working with the PR company behind the scenes in order to try to salvage her image in the lead up to the release of Snow White. Now, this is something that came to my attention last fall, or something I suspected last fall, when she made posts on social media following the election of Donald Trump as the US president, where she said that she hopes Trump and his supporters never know peace, only to kind of backpedal a couple days later, putting out a statement, not necessarily a video, but a written statement where she kind of, I want to say apologized for it, but tried to clarify that in kind of media jargon. And I was even saying that it felt like it was something that a PR firm wrote for her and not necessarily something that she wrote herself. And that's pretty much been confirmed. And then right before the movie was released, we started getting news like this. In news that broke earlier this week, this is before the premiere of the movie, Disney is taking next level measures to stage manage the film's world premiere in Los Angeles on March 15th. While the event won't be scaled back, as some headlines claim, the studio isn't allowing regular red carpet press to attend in order to prevent Zegler and Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen, from answering questions on the spot. Now, to me, that sounds like they're scaling it back. If they previously said press can be there, then they said press can't be there. That, I don't know, I would say that's scaling it back, but maybe we're just getting into semantics on all this. And I think a lot of this, why they don't want to have press there, is because before this, since Rachel Zegler seemed to make things worse for Disney every time she opened her mouth, the only time that she would give interviews pretty much since the start of this new year is when it was a friendly media outlet and they can basically have access to the questions early. They can prepare Zegler, give her answers for what she should be saying. And she said, put out statements in some interviews that sounded a lot more, I don't know, neutral or less divisive. I remember one where she was asked about the fan base of Snow White and stuff like that, and like, oh, the hostility with them, and she said like, oh no, they're not hostile, it's just a passionate fan base, and I'm grateful to be a part of all that, which is a good statement, and I will give credit for that. But I just said it felt disingenuous because she's made statements just a few months prior to that saying the exact opposite, where she's saying they're just a bunch of ists and phobes if they don't like it. Obviously that didn't work. And then you can more or less, if you track her interviews for the last year or so, you can almost see the switch from the time that she didn't have a PR person working with her and when she actually did get a PR person working with her. And like I said at the start of this video, this has been confirmed at this point. Inside Disney's Snow White fiasco, death threats, beefed up security, and social media guru for Rachel Zegler. On August 12th, 2024, 3 days after Rachel Zegler hit the stage at Disney's D23 fan event to introduce the first official trailer of Snow White, she thanks supporters effusively in an X post for driving the teaser to 120 million views in 24 hours. 1 minute later, she added an afterthought in the same thread, and always remember free Palestine. Now, this was a dumb thing for her to say because it had no business to be mentioned in this thread. This is basically just her being a young person stuck in her echo chamber. She always just hears support for Palestine, so she thought that was the popular thing to say. So she decides to opine on that thing and that it'll probably give her praise on social media. But it turns out it's like, no, that's actually a pretty divisive issue, and it had no business being mentioned in promotional material for your new movie from a company that you are an employee of. A contracted employee, but still an employee nonetheless. You shouldn't be making remarks on that in that kind of sense because it can only cause hardship for them. Not to mention it came across as kind of a veiled dig at her co-star Gal Gadot, who is in fact Israeli. I believe she still has Israeli citizenship, and not only that, she served in the Israeli military. So when you're openly promoting the enemy of the people for your co-star, that's not really a smart move, and it just injects a divisive element into the promotional material of this movie that didn't need to be injected there. That addendum, which amassed 8.8 million views, nearly 4 times the number of the initial post, quickly made the rounds, with many inside the studio expressing shock that the Snow White star would commingle the promotion of its $270 million tentpole with any kind of political statement. Because that's a dumb move. She comes across as someone who never had any media training, because that's something a lot of actors in the past and movie stars in the past, I mean, before social media, they would undergo media training where they knew how to handle press and answer questions in interviews and other things like that. And some people like the way things are nowadays where it's a lot more off the cuff. But I don't know if studios necessarily like that. I think they liked it better when their talent would basically stay on message and not necessarily try to create divisions within the fan base for their movies. Disney executive raised the studio's concern with Zegler's team, while the film's producer, Mark Platt, flew to New York to speak directly with her. So it seems like they were in full-on damage control after she made that post. But the actress, whose relationship with the studio began to unravel in 2022, began a contentious West Side Story Awards season campaign and continued as she trashed the beloved original Snow White, stood her ground, and the post remained behind the scenes. Death threats towards Rachel Zegler's co-star Gal Gadot, who is Israeli, spiked, and Disney had to pay for additional security for the mother of four. Yeah, it's not really a good look for Rachel Zegler when the people that she's trying to promote are basically making death threats towards Gal Gadot. And does anyone know if Rachel Zegler condemned those death threats towards Gal Gadot? I haven't seen it, but that's not to say that she didn't put out a statement in regards to that, because I think that's something that she probably should have done, even if she's not necessarily taking any responsibility. I'm not saying she should apologize on behalf of those people because she didn't necessarily make those death threats, but I think she should have at least put out a statement that death threats towards any Israelis, or especially her co-star, should be unwarranted, and she doesn't support that sort of thing. Let me know in the comments if Rachel Zegler ever said anything in regards to that, because like I said, I just personally haven't seen that, but they could be out there somewhere. She didn't understand the repercussions of her actions as far as what that meant for the film, for Gal, for anyone, says one insider. Yeah, I think that goes pretty much without saying here. 3 months later, following the presidential election, Zegler posted F Donald Trump and made Trump supporters never know peace on Instagram. Disney had enough, given that the star was signaling to half the potential audience of an already troubled film plagued by costly reshoots to stay home. Platt made the case again to Zegler after a back and forth. She began working with the social media guru paid for by Disney to vet any posts before the film's March 21st bow. Disney declined comment. Zegler did not respond to a request for comment. And like I said, at that point, it became apparently obvious that she was working with someone, because a lot of her social media posts read completely different than what we've seen in the past. Doing a 180 on some of the messaging that she said prior to this and then afterwards. And I think up to this point, Disney was kind of thinking, all right, as far as culture war issues and the stuff that Rachel Zegler's promoting, maybe they thought that that was kind of the dominant voice in all this. And then after Donald Trump won largely on culture war issues, Disney understood that, like, no, it's actually more than half the audience is against the stuff that our lead actress for our big budget movie has been saying. So maybe we should do something about this if we want to try to salvage some of the movie. And like I said, many of the things that Rachel Zegler talked about in interviews afterwards came across a lot better. It just was too little too late, because it didn't sound like it was genuine. It just sounded like she was just saying what she was told to say, and that's about it. After this film has premiered, we saw evidently that it is a box office failure for them. You can't say that a live action remake of the most iconic film in the vault that cost $270 million and has been reshot multiple times, opening to $50 million, is okay. The math does not work. That movie should be a $1 billion movie, said an executive at a rival studio when the film was tracking for a $45 to $55 million domestic opening. It ended up at below even the low end figure at $43 million. And keep in mind, this is already a revised down projection where it was initially being projected at a $65 million domestic opening. So it underperformed their lower expectation on this. So right now it's looking like the movie's dead. And I'm not saying Rachel Zegler is the reason solely for why the movie had failed, but I will say that she probably cost this movie several $100 million at the box office because of the stuff that she was saying about it behind the scenes. Disney understands that. Rachel Zegler, though, has she's kind of promoting the movie. She made this social media post, #1 movie in the world. And I even was laughing when I saw this because I made a video talking about the box office results, saying that they're going to try to tout this as like, oh, it's the #1 movie in the world, as if that's a huge accomplishment for something like this, with how little it actually performed at the box office. But after this, she locked comments on it, as you can see, because she, I guess, wasn't happy with the results on all this. But right now, the question I think remains what's going to happen with her career following this, because she was basically plucked out of nowhere, someone on social media, which is why she's so vocal on social media, and was giving a starring role in West Side Story. Then all the stuff surrounding that didn't really work out for her. Zegler had already strained nerves at both the studio and Steven Spielberg's Amblin Partners when she complained on social media that she wasn't invited to the 2022 Oscars as the star of the Best Picture nominee, West Side Story, a film distributed by Disney. Sources say she had just begun production on Snow White in London, and Sean Bailey, then president of Walt Disney Studios Motion Picture Production, declined to cut her loose for the telecast. After Zegler aired her grievances publicly, the Academy provided her with a ticket even though she wasn't nominated. Yeah, that's not really a good sign right there, because she was someone who really didn't know the industry. She was thrown into it and just started mouthing off publicly because that's what she was used to doing. And since then, she's had roles in a number of movies, none of which have really been great. The best one I can think of is the Hunger Games movie. She was a co-star in that one, and even then it still underperformed compared to the other movies in the franchise. And after all this, I'm doubtful she's going to have a really satisfying career, because I think a lot of studios are probably going to look at Rachel Zegler and figure this girl is worth more trouble than she actually than benefit for them, because she's really, she's not that great of an actress. I will give her credit. She can sing well enough, but if that's really what they are, if they're willing to put up with all this because she can sing in some roles, then okay, fine, I guess. But I can't imagine she's going to have a huge career following this because of all the stuff, not only attacking the fans and just creating a bunch of issues surrounding big budget movies and costing the studio probably hundreds of millions of dollars, but she's also willing to attack her employers on social media. And that's just something you don't do within this industry. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think she's going to have much of a career for her after all this? Or do you think pretty much her time in the spotlight is done? And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.